Today's reflection, it carries both depth and beauty. The mystery of the Creator, the one who made all things, sustains all things, and calls us into relationship. We'll listen to gospel teachings, to modern voices, and to indigenous wisdom.
Welcome to the Speaking from the Heart series, where faith meets everyday life. I'm your host, Richard Rohr, and together we explore how gospel wisdom and universal values can guide us in our work, our relationships, and our personal growth. Join us on our other podcasts, Affiliate Marketing Secrets and Coaching Talks. Find us on www.fontenay-magazine.com. The links are below.
Let's begin where the Bible begins. Genesis opens with the profound words, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." And the Gospel of John echoes, "Through him all things came to be. Not one thing had its being but through him." These verses set the foundation. God is eternal, prior to time and space, and distinct from the creation of our universe. Creation flows from God, but God is not absorbed into creation. And this matters, because if we confuse Creator with creation, we risk idolatry, worshiping the gift instead of the giver. But when we keep the distinction, creation becomes a window, a sacrament pointing us back to God. The Incarnation shows us the balance. God takes on flesh in Jesus. He enters the material world, yet remains fully God. Presence without absorption, union without confusion. This is the Christian foundation. One Creator who is not the same as creation, but deeply involved with it. Now let's bring in the three modern voices, Richard Rohr, Teilhard de Chardin, and Pope Francis, who help us in unraveling this mystery. Richard Rohr reminds us creation exists first of all for its own good sake, second to show forth goodness, God's goodness, and diversity and beneficence, and then for humans' appropriate use. This tells us creation has its own integrity. It's good in itself, not just a raw material for us to consume. Yet Richard Rohr doesn't collapse it into divinity. Creation points beyond itself to God's goodness. Rohr also says that creation is a process that's still happening, and we're in on it. We're participants, not outsiders. But participation doesn't mean identity. We join the Creator's ongoing work without becoming the Creator ourselves. As one of my friends says, we don't create anything. Only the loving God creates. Teilhard de Chardin offers another perspective. He speaks of the cosmic Christ, the one who holds all things together and draws creation toward fullness. At times, Teilhard de Chardin's language seems close to pantheism, but he himself rejected that idea. He warned against those who endow the universe with divine attributes. Instead, he saw Christ as the center of convergence, creation moving toward him, not dissolving into him. Now let's listen to Pope Francis, who speaks prophetically into our time. In his 2023 exhortation Laudate Deum, which really means praise God in Latin, Pope Francis reminds us of something profound. This is not a product of our own will. Its origin lies elsewhere, in the depths of our being, since God has joined us so closely to the world around us. Creation is not our invention. It is God's gift to us, and we are intimately bound to it. And I interpret his words in the depths of our being as meaning the loving God within us. We are not God, but the whisper of the divine tells us to look after the universe around us. Later, he warns, praise God is the name of this letter, because a human being who claims to replace God becomes the worst danger to himself. Now, this is the danger of confusing creator and creation, or acting as if we are the creator. When we dominate, exploit, or play God, we not only harm the world, we destroy ourselves. Pope Francis laments that our responses have been too weak. He says the world is collapsing and may be nearing the breaking point. Yet he also insists there are no lasting changes without cultural changes, and there are no cultural changes without personal changes. So he ends with hope. But it is still up to us to do something about it. This call is urgent. Creation care is not optional. It's part of discipleship, part of living under the Creator. This, then, is the Christian mystery of creation. Jesus is the Word made flesh, and as the Christ, he existed before time. Or as Paul says in Colossians chapter 1, all things were created in him and through him. And taken together, Richard Rohr, Teilhard de Chardin, and Pope Francis invite us to see creation as sacred, dynamic, alive, but never as God. Now let's listen to another voice, the call of indigenous wisdom. For many indigenous people, the Creator is known as the Great Spirit, the breath that gives life, the presence in wind and river, the voice in land and sky. And it's my understanding that this wisdom doesn't mean that every tree or stone is God. Rather, it means creation is alive with the presence of the Creator. It is sacred because it carries his imprint. Indigenous traditions remind us of something Christianity sometimes forgets, that we are interconnected. The land is not a resource to dominate, but a relative to honor. Animals, plants, and waters are not mere objects, but part of the web of life entrusted to us. The Great Spirit is not identical with the world, but the world is never without him. And that's the subtle but profound difference, and one we need today. So what does this all mean for us in work and business and in our daily life? Well, in our work, creativity mirrors the Creator. We should design, build, and innovate in ways that honor life and not diminish it. In our businesses, it's about stewardship over exploitation. So workers, resources, and communities are not means to an end, but sacred trusts. And in our daily lives, we express gratitude and with humility. Each meal, each breath, and each sunrise is a gift and not an entitlement. And in our spirituality, we worship God through creation, but never confuse creation with God. So friends, here's the truth we carry. God is the Creator, the Great Spirit is alive, creation is sacred, relational, alive with presence. But it is not God. And yet, God is not far away. He is intimately close, sustaining every moment, every breath. The Gospel, Richard Rohr, Teilhard de Chardin, Pope Francis, and Indigenous people all point us toward the same mystery. One Creator, many voices of witness. So let's walk humbly, live gratefully, work responsibly, and worship faithfully. Now, thank you for joining me here on Speaking from the Heart. May the Creator bless your journey, and may your life be a song of praise. I'm Richard Fontenay. See you next time on next Monday for another reflection from Speaking from the Heart series. Bye now.